Officer Mark Thompson shattered Maria Rodriguez's world when he planted evidence in her car, accusing her of a crime she didn't commit, all to meet some twisted quota. Maria is a devoted single mother, struggling to make ends meet, and the last thing she needs is to be wrapped up in a legal nightmare. As devastating as this charge is, the whispers around town suggest that Officer Thompson has targeted her for reasons that run deeper than just meeting statistics. Maria is no stranger to hardship. Her tired eyes and worn-down shoes tell a story of endless nights juggling 2 jobs to keep her kids fed and safe. She fights like every loving mother does, fiercely, bravely, with everything she has. And seeing her accused of a crime she didn't commit is a punch to the gut, an emotional betrayal that threatens everything she's worked so hard to build. Her children, Sophia and Ethan, only have her. Their father's absence is a gap too wide to fill. This injustice rips at the seams of their fragile lives, almost recklessly pushing them closer to the abyss. But what if this was never about the crime? What if someone is hiding a secret, darker than any outsider could imagine, buried deep within the town's past? It's court day, and Maria stands clad in her simple navy dress, one she bought long ago for job interviews that held the innocent promises of the future. She sits anxiously, jaws clenched, inhumane tags like criminal hanging over her like daggers. The townsfolk fill the room, murmuring, some doubting, some who have known Maria her whole life silently supporting her. Whatever support she once felt is quickly overshadowed by fear and uncertainty when Officer Thompson takes the stand. His rehearsed lies are so bitter that they taste sour even from a distance. His unkind eyes scan the room, daring anyone to look back, as he builds a false story to ruin a mother's life. It's strange, but Maria notices he never meets her eyes. It's as if he's scared of what he might see there. Courage, resilience, truth. Every word he utters seems deliberately crafted to break Maria's resolve, to send this innocent woman away from her kids. He feigns sorrow, regret, spinning stories with a smile turned upside down. Yet it's hollow, like cardboard cradled carelessly in the rain, lacking real feeling, and puppet act waiting for strings to snap. He describes an anonymous tip that led him to her vehicle, conveniently glossing over how this supposed evidence felt as if it appeared out of nowhere. The more he talks, the more Maria remembers the fear in his features while speaking to her that ominous evening. The wild dance of his pupils failed to convince the concerned crowd. In the crowd, Tom Carson, a retired judge with a heart that has seen too much, furrows his brow. Something doesn't sit well. The inconsistencies in Officer Thompson's tale raise his seasoned suspicion. And for Maria, as hopeful as that might feel, it adds another layer of confusion because Tom was never someone who meddled without reason. But why would a retired man care enough to attend her hearing? That question hovers over her, adding to the confusion and fear threatening to claw at her sanity. Then comes the prosecutor, eviscerating what's left of Maria's composure. Her defense lawyer, Sam Brooks, a young man fueled by righteous passion but armed with little experience, hesitates under the barrage. It's a classic mismatch in a courtroom that feels ready to swallow Maria whole. Her romanticized, unwavering faith in justice gradually cracks like eggshells crushed underfoot. But beneath those cracks simmers a defiant spirit. A spirit that refuses to let the system crush her or her children's future. Her mind spins back to the kids, Sophia's wide, trusting eyes watching every sound less whisper from the gallery. Ethan's gentle touch of encouragement, reassuring her that every sacrifice, every drop of sweat was never in vain. They're too young to understand why their world stands on the brink of chaos, but Maria knows they feel the weight as acutely as she does. Yet, the walls feel smaller, the air denser, with each lingering glance from the jury and each hollow echo of deliberation. And somewhere buried under the layers of this legal charade lies a festering corruption. What exactly is Officer Thompson hiding? What truth could tip a town from skepticism to belief? Retired Judge Carson senses the threads of a deeper conspiracy lurking just out of reach, an epidemic in their practiced procedures. And just like a wound neglected too long, it threatens to consume the town from within. As court proceedings stretch on, stirring hushed whispers that ripple like tiny shockwaves through the courtroom, an unnoticed clue, a dropped piece of paper, finds its way into written notes, and new hope quietly starts to light the path through this nightmare. A sliver, a trail, a chance, maybe, that just might reveal this is no isolated case of injustice. That Maria's personal hell is a single spark in a string of injustices that could unravel a suppressed history only some promise to forget, hiding behind the sheen of a respectable badge. But whispers don't stop a travesty this heinous. Silence, a silent agreement to authority without question, is what allowed this tragedy to rear its ugly head in the first place. Maria feels hope blending with fear, an explosive combination echoing within her very being. And perhaps the greatest betrayal isn't the accusation itself but the realization of a larger deceit at play. Maria won't break, not when there's more at stake than her own freedom. Her resolve strengthens, tempered like steel tested under fire. She won't let down Sophia and Ethan. No mother would. And even as she drowns in uncertainty, an inner spark ignites, a promise to herself, her children, to everyone whose names are yet to be written into this tale. That she will see it through. That they all will. As emotions swirl and threats of injustice tighten their grip, the eternal sands of time briefly pause in anticipation of truths poised on the verge of liberation. As nightfall approaches, cloaking intentions and unraveling layers, Maria's heart echoes a song of fortitude. A declaration that every trial, every tribulation faced, is but a prelude to the dawning of truth. Detective Kyle Larson ruined Kendra's life. That's all there is to it. One moment she's an exhausted single mother of two, hustling between her 3 part-time jobs, and the next, she's handcuffed in her own living room, accused of a crime she didn't commit. Larson's accusation, hollow, baseless, and seemingly driven by a twisted agenda, comes crashing down like a thunderstorm in the middle of a calm night. But what's worse, what makes fury boil beneath the surface, is the sickening thought that Kendra's innocence was less important than Larson's thirst for a quick win, or perhaps something even darker. Beneath the surface of this arrest lies a tangled net of prejudices, bigger than Kendra and cruelly indifferent to her suffering. Kendra's 2 kids, 9-year-old Emily and 6-year-old Ethan, huddled together wide-eyed on the couch as their mother is led away. Their cries, mixed with fear and disbelief, follow her out the door. It's the kind of scene that's designed to break a human spirit, but survival is the only option. The foundation of their world is spilling everything they thought was safe onto the cold, hard floor. For Kendra, the car ride to the police station is a suffocating blur of flashing lights and distant voices. Her thoughts race to her children, left behind with a promise too fragile to keep them safe. "I'll be back." Inside the precinct, the air feels thick with judgment. An officer informs her about the charges, ridiculous claims of credit card fraud linked to an account she's never heard of. Larson's eyes are smug as they meet hers, and there's an undercurrent of something sinister there that chills her to the bone. This isn't just about a mistake, it feels personal. It's the quiet, corrosive kind of prejudice that infects systems and poisons minds. Kendra pleads her innocence, but her words bounce off steel and concrete. Her history, spotless and humble, offers little defense against a world all too quick to paint her guilty. Her public defender, a weary-looking man named Mike with too many cases and not enough hours, offers little solace. He speaks in heavy phrases that go round and round, never really answering any of her desperate questions. Like a moth to flame, she's drawn deeper into the web, every thread tightening around her as the days blur into a sick parody of justice. Yet, beneath her growing despair, there's a flickering fire. Thoughts of her children fan the flames. She recalls their faces the day she was taken. Emily's tears, Ethan's whisper of, "Mommy." Those memories twist the knife deeper, but they also feed her resolve. She sits in a cold room, trapped by walls that seem to close in tighter with each passing second. Her heart pounds with a relentless urgency that matches her ticking resolve. Survival now means battling not just for herself, but for Emily and Ethan, who know nothing of their mother's supposed crimes, only that she's gone and they miss her. Kendra remembers the world outside, where the morning sun casts golden rays across city streets, places where people walk hand in hand with oblivious freedom. Trapped in this artificial light, she holds onto those images of normalcy with fierce determination. But the outside world feels impossibly distant, a drawing on the other side of frosted glass, unreachable and fading. A breakthrough comes unexpectedly from one of the legal interns, a bright-eyed woman named Sarah who believes in Kendra's innocence. She brings coffee and hope, determined to right Larson's wrongs. Sarah digs deeper, working late into the night, and that's when she stumbles across unsettling evidence. Records of other arrests by Larson, suspiciously skewed towards individuals who share Kendra's background. The pattern isn't just a coincidence, it's a chilling analysis of racial profiling. But as soon as they sense they're getting somewhere, new hurdles appear. Files disappear, emails go unanswered, calls lead to dead-end numbers. It feels like shadowy hands are reshuffling the deck against them. But the louder they knock, the more doors seem to slam in their faces. It's a system designed to protect its own, and Kendra is on the outside, a statistic wrapped in red tape. Still, momentum begins to shift when one of the other prosecutors, an unassuming but driven man named Jason, finds Sarah's files on his desk. He wasn't supposed to see them, but what he finds leaves him speechless and alarmed. A gut feeling tells him this is bigger than just one miscalculation by Larson. Something's rotten in this part of the justice system, and it's time someone took a stand against it. When Kendra appears in court, her lawyer, with renewed vigor, stands up and presents the new evidence. What unfolds isn't just a defense but a revelation, a spotlight on the system's shadows. Shockwaves ripple through the courtroom, but not before Larson's stone-cold facade begins to crack, exposing the malice behind his motivations. A career built on crumbled dreams and broken families. But even with the evidence laid bare, the judge seems hesitant, and eyes skeptically over steepled fingers. Kendra's heart tightens, the air thick with uncertainty. It's a gut-wrenching pause, the kind that stretches into eternity. And though truth has been laid bare, justice remains infuriatingly out of reach. Outside the courtroom, Kendra holds her children close, drawing strength from the way they press against her. Her fight is far from over, but the walls she once faced are beginning to crumble. Her story, now shared in whispers and headlines, is igniting conversations in rooms far removed from hers. The community is stirring. Support rallies in ways she never dared hope for. The journey, a nightmare that started with an unjust arrest, is now a call to arms for change. Her truth is now a banner for others to rally against injustice, and though the resolution remains painfully elusive, the spark of hope lights a path through the darkness. A path, if they can hold onto it, which might just lead to justice, one small victory at a time. Detective Johnson, a decorated officer, destroys Sarah's life with one reckless accusation. She is guilty of the armed robbery. Johnson, known for his connections and influence, pins the crime on her, stripping away her dignity and peace. Sarah, a single mother who works double shifts just to keep her son Ben clothed and fed, is dragged from her modest kitchen, handcuffs clinking like a gavel in a courtroom. Her neighbors, once friends, melt into a crowd of judging faces. Everything she cherishes slips through her fingers. What Johnson doesn't know, or maybe doesn't care to consider, is that Sarah has a secret. One that links her plight to a much deeper, darker conspiracy than an ordinary robbery. Charge. The officer expertly crafts the narrative to portray Sarah as an easy target, coloring her as an angry woman tainted by struggle, desperation marking her as a natural-born thief. But he doesn't expect the trickling doubt seeping into the courtroom like a draft of cold air. The judge and jury cast glances at Johnson, an almost imperceptible crack in the facade of his otherwise pristine image. People's eyes dart across to the defense table where Sarah sits helplessly. The tension is a heavy cloak hanging over everyone, hinting that this story is far more complex than it seems. In a moment of grief turned defiance, Sarah chooses to voice the truth she's hidden deep inside her soul, risking everything. As if standing on a crumbling precipice, Sarah reveals that a year before all this, she had witnessed an interaction she was never meant to see, a back alley moment where Johnson exchanged a manila envelope with someone she shouldn't have known. Curtis, a name that sends shivers down her spine even now. Curtis is an underworld player rumored to have bought cops and sold souls, linking him to Johnson is disastrous at best. The room shifts, the chatter pauses, a shared, silent question hangs in the air. What exactly has she uncovered? For a brief, sizzling second, she sees fear in Johnson's eyes as if he's a child caught stealing cookies, but he buries it fast under his practiced snarl. The room erupts into chaos, whispers turning to demands. The courtroom, once united in condemning her, now resembles a stirred hornet's nest. Is Johnson a dirty cop? The questions sting as he fights to retain control. Twist the scene again. Someone unexpected steps into the room. Logan, Johnson's partner, celebrated for his integrity, respected broadly. Logan holds his phone high, displaying a shaky video. The video shows Johnson pocketing bundles of cash from the infamous Curtis, while Sarah witnesses from the shadows, her presence cloaked by dim street lights. Sarah feels a rush of hope, but those gathered in the court react like wildfire to dry timber, some gasping, others murmuring in accusation. Johnson leaps, attempting to seize the phone, but the guards halt him, the authorities already moving to take him into custody as a barrage of evidence springs forth. The whispered rumors had apparently reached people in high places, driven to action now that Sarah brought forth the ugliest side of their trusted detective. Logan's effort is rewarded by a room shifting its sympathies entirely toward Sarah, while Johnson flounders in betrayal and panic. This story erupts from an everyday courtroom tale into a narrative of crime, power, and revenge. Through tears of relief and defiance, Sarah feels the scales finally tip. A community once quick to dismiss her now rallies to her side. Johnson's calculated narrative disintegrates like poorly spun sugar under rain. He watches, helpless, as his world shrinks, while Sarah's truth balloons into the public's relentless scrutiny. The climax builds. A judge, timing precise with the reveal, orders Sarah's release on grounds of potential misconduct and bias on Johnson's part, pending an official investigation. Justice twists through the air, slicing down lines between right and wrong, hope and despair. The rage that fueled Sarah morphs into something brighter. The murmurings of support transform her former captors into her defenders. They marvel at her courage, but Sarah knows courage is merely fear that has said its prayers. In the aftermath, hope and justice emerge stronger than the hold of prejudice and power. Sarah's reflection now carries an unshakable resolve. She beckons the viewers of her unfolding drama to consider the rot in their systems, to share in outrage, and to build a collective vigilant spirit against corruption. Her tale, no longer bound by the four walls of a courtroom, extends like wildfire, connecting hearts in a shared flame of justice. Detective Michael Reed destroyed a single mother's life in a heartbeat. He knelt beside a blood-stained scene that never should have existed. Sarah, a devoted nurse and mother of two, finds herself staring at the damning evidence Reed planted, an old revolver wrapped in her grandmother's apron. Her hands tremble as he cuffs her beside her two bewildered children. The truth doesn't matter. The scene is set, and Detective Reed has made his decisions. A setup born from prejudice, a racist cop determined to close a case at any cost, on the shoulders of someone who breathes resilience and love for her children. But here's the kicker. Barely whispered truths dissolve into screams within Sarah's chest. Secrets interlace with lies. Twists like winding roads in a storm. Hidden corners laden with the weight of betrayal. As newspapers scream her name and cameras flash like hungry wolves, Sarah becomes the town's latest villain, a symbol of fear in a story that doesn't belong to her. The courthouse is a theater of pain, where Sarah's story crumbles beneath layers of falsehood and cold smirks. Once, her life was ordinary, blessed with the laughter and unending chatter of her daughter Lily and son Tyler. Now, it's a battlefield. Her heart aches remembering the bedtime stories cut short, quiet moments with her kids stolen like precious whispers in the wind. Reed's accusations spill venom, poisoning memories of cherished hugs and shared ice creams. The lawyer assigned to defend her is ill-prepared, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of it all. Drowning in a sea of evidence fabricated and stacked against her, Sarah's pleas dissolve like echoes in a cavernous chamber, unheard and dismissed. The gavel pounds like a judge's heartless decree, her innocence lost beneath layers of doubt. But beneath this chaos lies an even darker truth. Clara, Sarah's neighbor and confidant, stumbles upon a snippet of treacherous dialogue recorded in one of her clandestine home security feeds, a sinister exchange between Reed and a shadowed figure, promising a swift resolution at Sarah's expense. But ignorance is bliss, especially for those unwilling to disrupt their peace for justice. Sarah now stands, not just accused, but stamped and labeled, stripped of her dignity. The whispered allegations paint her not only as a criminal but as a monstrous figure unworthy of the love and dedication she's sown into her community. Her sprouts of kindness are trampled under a well-worn boot of systemic decay. Her hopes dwindle, suffocated by the impenetrable fortress of Reed's narratives. Desperation claws at her skin, tearing down her resolve. The cry of her children echoes in her heart, the nights she lay awake praying for deliverance twisted with the raw ache of injustice. She feels the courtroom's eyes piercing her, stripping her of humanity while her innocence wilts under the lurid spotlight. Even as a friend points a finger of doubt towards the real criminals, Reed orchestrates from behind the scenes, puppeteering a dance macabre made of shadow and deceit. But Sarah is no fragile flower to wither in darkness. A flicker kindles within her, renewed determination fueled by soft-spoken words from her children's letters, unopened smiles nestled between ink and paper. And then, the unthinkable. Detective Reed, in a moment of hubris, leaves a trail. A confession slips in a drunken haze, whispered between allies yet captured by watching eyes. Clara holds the proof like lifeblood in her hands, shaky but resolute. Her willingness to believe shatters the tainted narrative spun against Sarah. Reed's empire crumbles. Truth unfurls like a long-awaited dawn, peeling away the dense cloak of injustice. The same courtroom transforms. A mirror reflects fearsome reckoning. Fervor builds as the dark deeds of the detective come to sharp clarity. Deceit bleeds through every corner. Reed's bravado dismantled. Authority players pay the price for their apathy. The forged connections of a corrupt circle unravel, justice its pursuer with fiery determination. The tide shifts in the courtroom. Competent attorneys fight back now, armed with Clara's incriminating evidence. A fierce, crackling energy fills the room as the judge reconsiders, his mask of impartiality tugged away by relentless truths. The crowd buzzes, anger replaced by burgeoning hope, righteousness rooting where injustice once thrived. Sarah's freedom is snatched back from the jaws of imposed despair. Tears flow, cleansing falsehoods tethered too long. Her children, who had become part of the tapestry of courtroom faces, wait with hope unfurling like fresh-plucked daisies. Innocence wraps them anew like a comforting blanket. Sarah stands strong, back straight and shoulders no longer burdened by wrongful prosecution. Her dreams, once frayed, weave back together, a tapestry richer for the trials endured. Her voice calm, resolute, drowns out the ghosts of her trauma, giving breath to the voiceless and the marginalized, lighting a beacon for the wronged, the silent fighters beneath contempt's heavy hand. With truth now unveiled, Sarah is more than a survivor. She becomes a testament to hope unquenchable, rekindled in the battle against darkness, inspiring a community to rise and challenge systemic deceit. Her journey, her transformation, reminds us to never trust a story too tightly woven, to penetrate veneers and expose the core, where darkness contrives but cannot defeat the light. The truth, the pulse of justice stitching lives back together. The echoes of her journey implore us, as they scaffold around her ultimate redemption, imploring awareness, action, and change. That cop ruined her life just because he couldn't stand seeing a strong black woman succeed where he had failed. Emily's been dragged through hell since Officer Daniels decided to make her his personal target. The sight of her, proud yet gentle, leaving her little family with nothing more than grit and love, seemed to offend him deeply. You see, it wasn't enough that Emily was raising her two boys on her own, no. She also had to fight a system rigged against her, and worse still, that fight began with lies. Emily gasps as the gavel comes down, setting her trial date. Every Saturday, she takes her boys to the park, the one place where they're free, where laughter wipes away their week's struggles, but even that's been tainted. Daniels strolled up last month, slapped handcuffs on her as her boys watched wide-eyed, falsely accusing her of stealing from the nearby convenience store. The tears in their eyes mix with the rain falling that day, creating a scene etched in their young minds. And now, every step she takes drags her deeper into this dark labyrinth Daniels crafted with his lies. Her boss lets her go, sorry but he can't keep her on with the charges hanging over her. Bills pile up, whispers follow her in the grocery store aisles, and neighbors no longer meet her gaze. Her once tight-knit community starts to unravel from the corners, leaving only a chilling sense of isolation. But life isn't finished with Emily just yet. As she clutches her boys closer, keeping them away from the harsh glare of judgment, the universe conspires to test her faith. It happens when her eldest, Jacob, falls from the jungle gym, breaking his arm, but the hospital questions her motives, hints at neglect. All their eyes seem to say, "What kind of mother are you?" As if the weight she carries isn't enough, her love for her kids comes under scrutiny, twisting the knife further. New betrayal cuts deeper when Emily's public defender, supposed to be her lifeline, shows up late and distracted at their courthouse meeting. He's juggling 6 other cases, it turns out, and the effort to truly fight for Emily just isn't there. "It's easier if you just pled guilty," he mumbles, flipping through her file without looking up. Her mind races, heart pounds. She can't fall into this trap, but every exit seems locked by Daniel's invisible hand. But not all is lost. Hope shimmers from an unexpected place. Reggie, an aging janitor at the courthouse, with wise eyes and a habit of going unnoticed, witnesses it all. He knows the runnings of the system inside out, knows Daniel's type all too well. His daughter faced something similar, he tells Emily quietly when they cross paths outside the courtroom. He becomes an unexpected ally, and his heartfelt words and determination fan the dying embers of her hope. Reggie digs with purpose, turning over dusty files and forgotten records. His work becomes a channel of salvation, a connection to a surveillance tape, stored carelessly and nearly erased, from the day of Emily's supposed crime. The footage is damning, not of Emily but of Daniel's misconduct. It captures him slipping merchandise into Emily's bag while she searched for battered cans of soup on the clearance shelf. From this small seed, confidence blooms within Emily. She walks a bit straighter, smiles a bit more, her internal light sparked anew. Tension heightens as word of the tape spreads, whispers growing louder, reaching ears usually deaf to injustice. Behind closed doors, murmurs question Daniels and his motivations. The scales of justice tremble, caught in a storm of its own making. The tension is a living thing as Emily faces the courtroom again. Her boys sit quietly, hands clutching her sister's. The prosecution seems more rattled, edges of smug certainty fraying as they glance towards Reggie, who sits at the edge, nodding reassuringly to Emily's persistent gaze. Her public defender finally takes notice too, snapping awake under pressure's harsh glare, suddenly aware he sits on a potential career-defying case. Twist upon twist. Daniels dares to deny everything, mocks Emily's supposed allies, taunts them with unflinching confidence. But when the tape plays, raw truth ripples like a shockwave across the crowded room, walls echoing with gasps. Daniel's mask slips. Fear and hatred dance in his eyes as he senses his empire of lies crumbling. Emily doesn't just win the case, she reclaims her dignity, her voice. Daniels is left stripped of his power, exposed as the orchestrator of his own downfall. The courtroom watches, jaws slack, as the gavel falls once more, this time in Emily's favor. Finally, victory, powerful and beautiful, is hers. As they leave, hand in hand with her boys, Emily pauses, a tremor of relief washing over her. The specter that haunted her days has been banished. Her reflection, shimmering in the courthouse glass, emboldens her with a silent promise. She will continue to stand tall, for herself and her children. This story echoes beyond the courtroom, transcending walls and whispers, inviting others to rise. Emily was wrong, but she's more than a victim. She's a warrior, and her fight has sparked a flame that can't be snuffed out. It's a rallying cry, a call for change, begging us to look closely, to listen deeply, and to act decisively in the face of injustice. May her resilience light our way. Officer Daniels made sure she lost everything. From the moment Sarah Lewis stepped into the courtroom, the air was thick with prejudice and lies. Accusations aimed like daggers at the heart of her life as a single mother. She had been fighting a battle on 3 fronts. The stigma of her skin, the weight of raising 4 kids alone, and the keen betrayal of a corrupted justice system. That was supposed to defend, not destroy. Daniels spun stories that painted Sarah as unfit, a narrative built on racist undertones, hidden behind legal jargon. But underneath his crisp uniform was the dark, vile truth. A bitter man who couldn't accept her resilience, who couldn't see past his biases. His eyes, cold and calculating, sweeping the courtroom every time he flicked a look at Sarah, were evidence enough of his intentions. He wasn't just after her, he was after the dignity she carried so unapologetically. Yet, as the lies piled up, Sarah's truth seemed to drown. You're led to wonder if justice is just an illusion crafted by those in power. Just when Sarah thought she'd breathe no more, that the walls would indeed close in, a twist shattered the courtroom's facade. Her lawyer, Carlos, a steadfast ally with a fervor for justice, rifled through Daniel's records, a mountain of papers representing the cop's sordid past. And there it was, buried deep but undeniable. A pattern of targeted arrests, a lineup of wrongful accusations that sang the same old song of bias. Carlos laid it all out, a mosaic of corruption pieced together by years of the same malevolent drive. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest, the courtroom now a blistering scene of truth finally speaking. The terrors of every sleepless night were sprawled in the open for all to see. Daniel's face shifted, the firm veneer of control cracking, revealing a man drowning in his own vile intentions. Whispers turned to gasps as the weight of his actions descended upon the room. You could almost feel the change, like a shift in the wind. Where once there was hostility, now there is a burgeoning sense of revolt against what Daniels represented. But the plot thickened, as it always seems to in these battles against injustice. Daniels, his back to the ropes, reached for one final gambit, a desperate shot at covering his tracks. He tried to drag Sarah's old friend, Lisa, into the fray, seeks to dilute the rising tide of truth with one last smear. Whispers ensue, casting doubt, trying to tarnish the woman beside Sarah, hoping to make her fold under pressure. But Lisa stands tall and unbreakable. Her voice, clear and unfaltering, cuts through the tension like a beacon. Her testimony doesn't just defend Sarah. It shatters every fallacy with yet another truth, a counter-narrative of kindness and strength, of loyalty when the world threatens to tear everything down. The scales tip, but not without a fight. The judge, weary but resolute, calls for order, and in the midst of chaos, there's a silence that drapes across the room like a heavy, solemn cloth. The eyes of the people, those who'd watched Sarah's struggle and Daniel's attempted deceit, hold the verdict in their collective gaze. And the truth is undeniable, a powerful undercurrent that can't be ignored any longer. In a stunning resolution, the gavel falls, swift and absolute. The sound reverberates through walls as flimsy as the accusations themselves. Every axis of Daniel's baseless claims crumbles under the righteous weight of what is right. Sarah's vindication ripples through, a glorious echo of justice singing in a broken system. For once, fairness triumphs, not by miracle but by the tireless pursuit of truth, by the impact of every voice that refuses to be silenced. As the realization settles, Sarah feels lighter, as if 1,000 burdens have been stripped away in an instant. The liberation of having the world see her truth, of knowing that her fight wasn't in vain. Tears spring to her eyes, a rush of emotions she can't contain, emotions forged in the fires of resilience and faith. Her children, her legacy, were now forever safe. In the ending crescendo of this truth-fueled victory, there's a reflection that demands to be heard. It's about the courage to stand, the audacity of hope, and the infinite power of not letting go. Not when you're right even when the whole world seems wrong. It's a call to defy the unjust, to hold tight to what must prevail, to dig in and confront the shadows, no matter how deep they extend. Sarah's story is one of countless stories, yet its victory is singular. And for every Sarah who dares to challenge the system, and every Carlos who fights by their side, there is a promise that truth, no matter how long it takes, will echo louder than the lies that seek to drown it. Justice isn't just a ruling, it's a resurgence, a collective decision by all who witness to stand against the darkness. And in reflecting on Sarah's journey, we find a mirror for our own convictions. With each like, share, and comment, we amplify the call for fairness, for unyielding resilience, for love that outlasts the deepest of injustices. Sheriff Daniels didn't just arrest Sarah, he tore her dignity apart, all because he couldn't see past her skin color. The accusation hovers over her like a dark storm ready to unleash chaos on her life. This isn't just about right and wrong, this is about the justice meant to protect, betraying the very people it should hold close. Behind closed courtroom doors lie murmurs of deeper schemes, and as testimonies unfold, a veil of corruption whispers promises of a shocking revelation that no one ever saw coming. Today in the courtroom, the world shrinks for Sarah, a single mother who'd given her all to raise her son, Matthew, in a world that too often judges first and listens never. Her heart races as the prosecutor lays out their so-called evidence, none of it pointing to the truth she's lived. Every word feels like it's cuffed around her soul, dragging her deeper into an abyss of helplessness. But there's a glint in her eye, a silent defiance that knows truth isn't built on lies. Sheriff Daniels, once trusted, stands with an undeserved authority, spewing venomous claims, painting Sarah as a villain. Her heart pounds with every accusation, the room swirling as she clutches onto memories of her frantic night search for Matthew's inhaler when his asthma attack hit, her only crime being in the wrong place at the wrong time. That night, her world was just a single frantic breath. All about survival in the face of imminent danger, not the criminal intent they're accusing her of. The twist sharpens as the defense attorney unveils a secret so vile it shifts the room's air. It turns out Sheriff Daniels has a history, a pattern of targeting those he deems different, those who, in his mind, disrupt his sense of order. Witnesses come forward, one by one, each story a piece of the puzzle showing a sheriff not of justice, but of judgment tainted with racism hidden beneath his badge and uniform. Sarah listens as her tears cart paths down her cheeks. Each tear not of sorrow, but of fighting back, of years spent teaching Matthew to stand tall against all odds. The room seems to gasp in unison as Daniel's past indiscretions are laid bare, piece by ugly piece, unearthing a past painted with power misused, trust broken, and lives like Sarah's shaken to their core. Matthew's testimony sends ripples through the courtroom. At 12, he stands with the strength of a man years beyond his age, recounting stories of his mom's resilience, of her late-night sacrifices and tearful hopes for a future free from these unjust battles. His voice wavers but never breaks, a testament to a boy who's seen too much too soon but carries the spirit of generations before him. With each revelation, Daniel's facade cracks. The room that once loomed with an aura of accusation now pulses with a shared realization of injustice born from silence and complicity. The judge's gavel finally rings an air of resolution. Sarah's innocence declared, her truth reclaimed, and with it, the community's hope for real justice reborn. Sarah doesn't just leave the courtroom. She rises, a mom, a fighter, an emblem of strength against the world's sometimes cruel, unyielding systems. Her eyes speak of beginnings anew, but also of the scars that remain etched in her heart, reminders of battles fought not in vain. Healing begins, slowly, as she embraces Matthew outside the courthouse. They are free, but the marks of their ordeal linger, inspired to fight against injustices that still run like shadowed ink beneath the surface of society's pages. Sarah takes each breath for those who haven't found their voice yet, those still trapped in the webs of prejudice and fear. The community, once spectating, now sees with eyes unclouded, their hearts ignited by Sarah's battle. Daniels faces his reckoning, stripped of his badge, a powerful message that the shield is not a symbol of unchecked power, but of service and humility. For Sarah and Matthew, life is different now. The world didn't stop being unfair, but change starts in small footsteps, in conversations stirred by bold truths. The victory today is a beacon, but it calls for vigilance, to watch, challenge, and demand better every day. Reflecting on Sarah's journey, her story isn't just hers alone. It's a mirror held up to us all, a call to stand with those never heard, to fight merciless bias with unyielding compassion and courage. Now, as we sit with Sarah's story still echoing in our minds, let's share this tale that's more than just heard, it's felt. Remember her strength, her voice when it wavered but never abandoned hope. Let's carry this story forward to those who need to hear of resilience, of fighting the impossible and winning against all odds. If this moved you, if you felt that injustice stir something inside, hit that like, not for algorithms, but to uplift more stories that need telling. Your thoughts, your feelings, drop them in the comments. Let's start a dialogue that doesn't end. And as you click to share, think of 5 friends who might find courage and strength in Sarah's tale. Together, let's ensure stories like Sarah's aren't just stories, they're catalysts for change, for empathy, and for unyielding hope in the face of adversity.